Hello, it's Charlotte Sister C. Farrell, host of Powered by Age, Canada's longest-running senior-led podcast that invites you to do what you love.
This podcast is for you if you love writing or telling stories, if you love sharing poetry or doing interviews.
This podcast is for you if you love working on ways to create age-friendly cities.
This podcast is for you if you love learning how to tame technology and get more out of virtual events, if you love finding more ways to share your heritage or traditions.
If you love any of these things, you can go beyond listening and join our weekly podcast group. Simply email pbaafc@gmail.com and put your name in the subject line. Powered by Age is sponsored by the Government of Canada, New Horizons Grant, the 411 Senior Center Society, and G&F Financial Group. Good afternoon and welcome to Powered by Age, Canada's longest-running senior-led podcast. I'm Charlotte Farrell, the host, and today we have some things starting with me. We're going to be having breaking news about a new program. We are going to be talking about the beautiful brain. Dr. Ramona and I are going to engage you in some beautiful brain activities. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dave Handelman, who is the chairman of the board of the 411 Senior Center. And one more thing before I do that, I want to gratefully acknowledge that our podcast and our work is taking place on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And now we will turn you over to David.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's a pleasure to be here. I just do need to mention, though, that I'm the vice chairperson of the board, but I am the chairperson of the Program and Membership Committee. So we have our esteemed chairperson or president, Marion Pollock. So
yes, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Of the board, but I am active in this committee that I'm going to speak about today. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here, and the news is that Telus, as of last week, is now offering the second stage of its programs for seniors. The first stage of the programs was the Telus Mobility for Good for Seniors program, which was a program by which seniors who received the GIS could apply for and receive a Telus cell phone plan for $25 a month, including 3 gigabytes of data and unlimited calling and texting around Canada. This program started 6 or 8 months ago. And as far as I know, several thousand seniors across Canada have signed up for this program. And if those seniors can't afford a cell phone, an unlocked phone, they can use any phone they want. If they can't afford a phone, Telus does provide a subsidy so that they can purchase a refurbished cell phone from Telus. So this is a great program for seniors who wanted to be able to have a cell phone but couldn't afford the typical $50 or $60 plan that most people pay. So that program has been underway for a number of months. The second program that literally began last week is called Telus Internet for Good for Seniors. And this is a program for home internet where seniors can receive internet at home. It will be installed by Telus with the router, and the charge will only be $10 a month. And we believe that this program will be even more successful than the cell phone program. I think, based on my knowledge, most seniors want a cell phone, but what they really need is internet at home so that they can use a laptop or an iPad or a desktop. So this is really a great program. As we all know by now, internet access is extremely important for seniors, not just for their personal communications and entertainment, which are very great things, but just simply to communicate with the government, to deal with benefits, to deal with the provincial government, bureaucracies, the city of Vancouver or Burnaby or wherever they live. This is just the way life is, even to deal with the library these days. It's almost imperative to have internet access. And the the cost of internet access at home, was at least $50 or $60. And there were all sorts of contracts were, involved in all of these things. So this is really a great program because, as I said, it's $10 a month, no contracts. Telus will do the installation, provide the router, and Telus will not, though, provide the equipment. But as we may have mentioned in the past, the 411 seniors has been able to obtain free or low-cost laptops or desktops from an organization that works with Telus called Recycle BC, Tech BC, which takes donated computers, desktops, and laptops from corporations, which are in very good shape, but which are 4 or 5 years old, which are replaced. And this organization, which is located in Burnaby, refurbishes them, repairs them, refurbishes them, loads them up with whatever basic software is necessary, and provides them at either free, even with a monitor and a keyboard, or sometimes there's some cost involved if you want maybe a more elaborate device. But anyway, we in the past 2 or 3 years, we've been able to get 45 or 50 of our members free laptops and a certain amount of desktops. So we're very excited about this program. And I believe, Charlotte, you should have the link. It's just a pretty basic thing. You go to this Telus website, it says Internet for Good, and there's a way to apply for there's a way to apply for Mobility for Good or Internet for Good. And the only requirement is that the person applying must be a recipient of GIS, and that person must be able to provide proof of that to Telus. Now, obviously, the way that's done is probably by uploading it. But we can help at 411 if any of our listeners believe they're interested in these programs. All they would need to do is make an appointment to see Gurpreet and bring the proof of their GIS to the office. We will scan it and help them apply online. So this is a really great program, and we're very excited about it. And it has come about because of some efforts we've made in the last few years. So Telus has been listening, and we're very pleased that Telus has chose 411 Senior Center Society as one of its partners in the launch of this program. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, David.
Okay.
I do get the GIS, but I don't have anything that says they just pay me every month, and I'm happy camper, and obviously everything's okay. Oh yeah, but once a year I get a letter from them.
Yes.
I think that's got to be the answer. I had forgotten all about that because.
We watched the movie till about 11 o'clock. And then, I figured whatever shit shut down by then. That's all we I forwarded it.
So, for another example would be in January or February, everyone receives I guess it's called a T5. It's your OAS, your CPP, and if that person received GIS, they get something from the federal government to confirm their annual benefit. So
I have a letter. I know that, and I guess the T4. Yes, there's got to be something somewhere because I do submit my income tax. So
right. So yes, that shouldn't be a problem. Just some method of proving. I don't know what exact document Telus requires.
It's that document.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's that document. And this is one of the good connections between the 411 Senior Center Services and this Telus program. We have free help, free tax specialists beginning in February. They're on site. But even before all of the tax consultants are there, the information and referral people can help you put together the paper that you have. If there's anything that you don't understand about applying for the Telus program or other benefits, other programs that are being offered, you can book an appointment to have someone go over how to do it and to help you learn how to use that computer. David mentioned the computers. Several of the people, when we first started our podcast, we had about 44 people that were participating physically in the building. But then in telephone calls, we had more than 20 people who tearfully said they just didn't have high-speed internet or it cost too much and they weren't able to get on. So this will be good news to them. And then I want to give the phone number for the 411 Center. It is 604-684-8171. Again, 604-684-8171. And you could say you want to get help or speak with the counselor that could help you sign up with the Telus Internet for Good program or the mobility program.
Neil, thank you, Charlotte. And Neil, as I believe you mentioned, even if you're paying a higher rate on Telus now or Shaw, you could get the lower rate once you apply. So
no, I'm not using Telus, but I pay $100 a month to Shaw.
Well, you may wish to consider changing to Telus. So that's something that's possible.
Yes, but that's really not a question. Should I? To go from $100 to $10, I'm still quick enough to say, hey, wait a minute, include me here.
Yes, I should add that we did approach Shaw about these programs, and they weren't able to offer them at the time. This was over a year ago that we initiated discussions with Telus and Shaw, and I have to say Telus has come through, so we're very pleased to have them, as a partner.
Well, I'm paying Fido $40 a month, and so I could severely reduce my equipment costs.
No, you're a good example of persons to whom these things are designed to benefit, and I certainly hope that you and many other of the listeners of this podcast take advantage of these great programs.
Well, thank you for your work. And, we've talked about advocacy, and this is one of the examples of advocacy in action. The center and other senior centers have heard the complaint that the internet is too much. I get a bill that I can't predict. Some people have lost their communication service because of unpaid bills, but because you were meeting with these companies and what did you do beside me? Did you write letters? You didn't have to go and protest in front of the buildings, but what are some of the advocacy steps that you took to get such a program brought about?
Well, a number of groups across Canada have been lobbying Telus and Shaw and Bell for more affordable rates for seniors in GIS. So we weren't the only ones, but about a year ago, we wrote a letter to several of the providers, and Telus replied that they were interested. So at that point, then I drafted a rather lengthy submission, a letter to Telus explaining the problems that seniors were having, the reasons that they needed internet access, and the so-called what we refer to as the digital divide, which is the inability of certain sectors of our population to access internet in this day and age when it's pretty much absolutely necessary. And then what we did was and I think, Charlotte, you may have helped with this, I provided testimonials from a number of 411 members about how having affordable internet would change their lives. How would it benefit them? So I attached statements from 4 or 5 or 6 people to the submission, and must have made an impression because a few months later, Telus announced that they were going to be doing the Mobility for Good program. They already do the Mobility program for Good for families, low-income families, and people receiving disability, and children aging out of foster care. So I guess it was probably technically simple for them to add that program to seniors on GIS. And we thank them very much, but we told them that we really felt, as great as the mobility program was, we urged them to continue to add the seniors internet program, Internet for Seniors. And they did. And again, we had some discussions with them, and they've been very, very receptive. So, it took a while, but it's happening now. It's available. It's actually available for applications. I don't know how long it would take to have it installed, but probably not that long.
Well, thank you for your work. We talked about in this show, speak up so people can listen up and then act upon what you've heard. And so members of our group have been really active in speaking up about housing issues, this telecommunications issue, and we very, very much appreciate the ways that you will, from time to time, we'll have breaking news about other programs that are happening at 411 Center, and just the ability to connect via internet will make it more possible for people who are homebound to link in and be on the podcast like we're doing today. So we're going to be talking about the healthy brain transitioning into our other B items, and we're going to talk about brain health facts. So does anyone else have a comment to make with David before I think he has to go to another meeting? You're welcome to stay, but we thank you for coming.
Well, David. Oh, yes,
David, thank you so much. You're a hero in the war, in the internet war. There's very few heroes, and thank you very much for your effort.
I appreciate that. Many people contributed. We're just a little bit lucky the way it turned out, but it was kind of an effort of many, many people. And I suppose at some point tell us that, okay, it's time to move. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you, Charlotte, for inviting me. And I look forward to hearing this podcast on my cell phone.
Okay.
Good luck with your work. And I hope to see you all at 411 before too long.
Yes, you will. We are experimenting with the hybrid. We came there for the Diwali festival. And so some people were watching by Zoom, and others of us, Dr. Ramona and I were there at the table. So this ability of people to watch with their phones at home or watch with their computer or their notebook will really make it possible for more people when we do this hybrid model. When, every winter months, people might not be able to come to the center, or the people that are at the center will be able to experience learning the technology. So thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, good afternoon, folks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Ramona, do you want to introduce what fun things we're doing with the brain today?
Sure. So, hello, everyone. And we've decided to put together some information about brain health, starting with some fun facts about the brain. And then Charlotte will take over with humor and the brain. And that would be followed by, hopefully, partner questions. Charlotte, are you going to do that, the breakout room?
Well, we'll see how the breaking out goes. If not, we'll do it within the what they say, committee of the whole.
Right. So we'd have some questions which we would ask each other and share answers on that. And that would be followed by, I think, a segment on something that helps, one of the things that helps our brain, and that is gratitude. I think then Charlotte would take over with what we're going to do next. Is that right, Charlotte?
Yes, from gratitude, we're going to be building a bridge to next week. Those of you who are here are listening, you have a week to work on either doing a poem or a story that has gratitude as its theme that will be read in our podcast program next week. Okay. So you're going to do the screen share for do you need to, I don't have to screen share for you.
No. There's no screen sharing for this. It's just going to be listening
Okay.
to the fun facts. Okay. Tell me when I should start.
Oh, you can start.
Okay. So, did you know that your brain can work wonders? It not only controls all of your body parts, but makes all of your wildest dreams come true. You can improve your life by simply changing your thoughts. To understand how it works, listen to these 10 surprising facts about the brain that prove that you can achieve anything. Number 10, your brain doesn't realize the difference between reality and imagination. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? Your brain can't tell facts from fantasy. It just reacts to your thoughts. That's why most people who look at the world through rose tinted glasses feel happier. They think our world is a great place to live in, and their brain makes them believe it, no matter what circumstances surround them. This also explains why people get addicted to video games or feel scared after watching a horror movie. Number 9, mental work doesn't tire your brain. You normally feel tired mainly because of your emotions. The composition of blood flowing through your brain during its active work remains unchanged, although the blood from the veins of a person who has worked all day changes considerably. Number 8, most of the time, your brain works automatically. More than half of your present thoughts are thoughts from yesterday. Most of the time, you scroll past the same worries, plans, and phrases as you did a week ago. That's why it's so difficult for pessimists to change their worldview. They need to literally clean their brains to be able to react to positive things more often. Number 7, you see what you are thinking about. All of your thoughts turn into experiences, life experiences. For example, if you dream of a trip to Paris, you'll see reminders of this city everywhere. French music in a cafe, the smell of fresh baked croissant, a new French movie. Your brain will pay attention to all of these small signs. Want to change the world around you? Change your thinking. Number 6, your brain needs training. The brain is no different from muscles. It also needs training. Learning, fresh air workouts, healthy eating, sound sleep, traveling, taking notes, and dancing are all beneficial for your brain. According to scientists from the University of Pennsylvania, learning a foreign language is the best kind of training. When you study a new language, the structure of your brain changes. This method works regardless of gender and age. Therefore, learning a new language might help older people strengthen their brains. Number 5, your brain never rests. We spend about a third of our lives asleep. But even when you sleep, your brain continues to work hard. According to studies, its activity during sleep is even higher than during the day. Your brain records everything you see. And when you sleep, it brings logical change for each of your unsolved problems. Hence the phrase, the night brings counsel. Got a problem? Take a nap. Number 4, shutting down is vital. From time to time, we need to shut ourselves down to give a break to our immune system. Otherwise, thousands of negative thoughts and worries will absorb us. So drop everything, close your laptop, and let your brain restart. However, lying down on a couch surrounded by snacks isn't a great idea. Active rest is the most useful relaxation for your brain. Take a walk, ride a bicycle, or play frisbee. At least turn on some good music and dance like no one's watching. Number 3, by forgetting something, you make your nervous system flexible. To save new memories, your brain needs to get rid of old ones. It would be nice if we were able to decide what to remember and what to forget. Here is a solution. Use the information that you want to preserve more often. Number 2, your brain doesn't feel pain. Your brain reacts to pain, but it doesn't feel it itself because of the lack of the necessary receptors. However, this fact doesn't apply to blood vessels, nerves, and tissues that surround your brain. Number 1, you can change your brain. Doesn't this sound incredible? Any kind of activity makes your brain generate new neural connections. If you think you're not able to get a promotion, this idea will be locked into your consciousness. But if you keep saying, I will succeed, I can do it, your brain will give you an opportunity to realize your goal. In other words, you can achieve absolutely anything. Nothing is impossible for your brain. The main thing is to believe. Thank you.
Those were wonderful, Ramona. Such
Thank
fun.
you, Leslie.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know if you know the answer. You talked about the benefits of learning a language. If the language is more similar to English or your mother tongue compared to a language which is more dissimilar, does it give more benefit if the language is more difficult for you, or does that kind of defeat the objective? Does it make it too challenging?
I really wouldn't know the answer to that, the difficulty level of the language, but I think it's just a different language altogether. And what you asked about, Leslie, like if it's different from English. So I've noticed that since I teach French, I've noticed that students who know English rather than, in India, they had certain languages like they spoke Hindi or Gujarati at home. So they found it more difficult to learn French because the basic alphabet is similar, French and English. So that
not just the alphabet. I mean, you don't have to learn to read to learn a language, right?
Right.
Learn to speak it. But if the grammar is so different, so I'm thinking like as an English speaker, if I learn another European language, it's easy for me, even if it's Greek. Even if it's Greek and the alphabet's different.
Latin, the Latin languages, they're coming from the same root.
And even the North Indian languages are Indo-European as well, right? But if I'm learning, say, Chinese or Japanese or Swahili, those are so different, and those would be more difficult. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, it makes logical. The script is entirely strange. We wouldn't be able to make head nor tail of that. I think we would have to be like babies then, and like how babies learn the language, right? Just by listening to it. In my house, I had this experience with my own children. So I spoke English, but I married a Tamilian. So the language is very different. It's not Sanskrit based, so it's not similar to Hindi, Marathi. And since I was working, my mother-in-law brought them up. Like the boy was 10 months old. No, he was 8 months old when I left him with her, and she was 10 months old. So their first language was Tamil. Now, I couldn't speak that, so then I spoke English to them, and they learned that too. And my mother-in-law and I spoke in very bad Hindi. Neither of us knew, either English or Tamil. And so the children learned that, and very fluently. They didn't give a thought to it. Whereas I've been married, I was married for 23 years, with them, and I never picked up Tamil. I just couldn't. So I think babies, maybe if the sound, so like you're saying Chinese or Japanese.
Yeah, so if anybody's listening to this, I'd like to encourage them, even if they think they're too old to learn, because I learned Japanese in my 50s. I thought I was too old to learn a language. What was challenging with Japanese was the writing system. So I'm still illiterate, but I can actually speak a fair bit, right?
Wow.
But even so, the grammar is so different to Indo-European languages. It was quite a challenge to start with.
But can I interject here? Because it's what you believe at the outset is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Because Chinese Mandarin is very, very simple. Because the structure is simple. There's no him and her. There's no, like in French, the table is a female. And none of that stuff exists in Chinese. And in fact, there's no present tense. It's all present tense. There's no future tense. If I say to you, Washani, that means I miss you, or I missed you while you were away, or I will miss you when you're away. And so...
the same thing means, different tenses, kind of. It could be. Now you make me feel like learning Chinese.
Well, around the brain, there was the Alzheimer's Society had some workshops, and then UCLA has a study on some things that help prevent or strengthen the brain. And learning a language, just the reasoning, because you are reasoning, there's a different set of reasoning, or there are different patterns. So it doesn't matter how complex it is. It's just the process itself that you're making different regions of the brain, which I'm going to show in my little screen here. But that's one of the things that makes the brain healthy, when we exercise every region rather than just one region. And what Neil said, it connected to one of your brain facts, what you believe. If you think something is going to be hard, it will be. Or you think, I can't learn languages, or I can't learn calculus, then you won't be able to do it.
I can speak both Ukrainian and Chinese. And what's interesting is that in either language, if I go to give you something, in Chinese I say na, and in Ukrainian I say na. So I can. It's exactly the same word, but anyway. Hey, I love language. I can speak many languages, just few words.
But
you
make important friends. Yeah, people feel
make friends anywhere in the world.
Right.
I was in the airport in Beijing, in China, and talking to a Polish guy, because we were both looking for the bathroom.
That's an important word to know in any language, I guess.
Okay. So now brain function. I like this because most of the things around the brain, they show you this gooey looking gray matter, but this is in colors. And so from the colors, which part of the brain is the largest part?
In frontal lobe.
Yes. And what are some of the things that happen in the frontal lobe?
intelligence, problem solving, reading, speaking, language, and sensation. A lot of things.
So that's a pretty important, and when we look at these, we talk about sometimes injuries. We spoke a previous episode about concussions, or when people have injury to different parts of their brain, why sometimes it affects different things, and that this kind of one-shot approach to telling a person to just take off work for days or to lay down without taking into account, what part of the brain was affected. So let's go over to the blue section. What are some of the things that you see happen in the parietal lobe? Parietal lobe.
Body orientation, reading, sensation, knowing right and left.
Right. So the orientation of knowing whether things are to your right or left. So that's just a little bit tucked behind and up behind the frontal lobe. Okay. Nancy, what do you see happening in the magenta temporal lobe?
Leslie.
I do that. Leslie, you're muted.
Yeah, so sorry, because of my eyes right now, I'm having a hard time reading those little letters. I think it says memory, learning, behavior, intelligence, memory, movement, and hearing. Yeah.
Okay. And so sometimes people I worked with a chiropractor for a car injury that I was in, and one of the reasons he got interested in chiropractic work was he'd been in an accident and he lost his hearing, and no one was actually working with that lobe. So a lot of the procedures and movements he had helped to restore health in the temporal lobe. It helps people sometimes to understand when you go and you say, my ears are hurting or I can't hear, whether the person is listening to you and understanding that might be connected to a fall or a blow or even having music too loud. One of the things that they're projecting is that of the generation now that people are going to have lost their hearing by 40 because so many people have headsets on with the music very loud and it affects that lobe. The temporal lobe. So there's a reason to keep that lobe and think about it and have it healthy. And then also in some of the meditations, Neil does EFT, but when you are doing that, the tapping over the temporal lobe, you can see, do you see the connection to how doing tapping in that area helps that region of the brain? I think you were moving when I asked that question. We were looking at the temporal lobe and the things that are in that particular lobe. And I know you do EFT, and some of the tapping that you do is at the sides of the brain. Do you see how that might be healthy for that part of the brain?
Well, where it connects to is the side of the eye, not over the ear where the temporal lobe would be located. And so I don't think what I'm trying to do when I tap is take the energy that's stored in the amygdala, which is in the cerebellum area, and it's the producer of fear and concern. I might be wrong. It might be in the temporal lobe. I'm sorry. I don't really have an answer for you.
There is a tapping group that I joined for. In fact, there was a Zoom presented a workshop that was supposed to be on happiness, and thousands of people were on it. And so people were doing different modalities, but one of the modalities was just this light tapping and light massaging at the sides. And they were saying in that temporal lobe that it does help with stimulating your memory. It does help with your hearing, with just bringing, I think as you bring more blood flow to the area, or just pressing there, bringing up an area of peacefulness. As Ramona was saying, sometimes you just have to take a break and rest. That's an area that where you are tapping or massaging in that area, that you are helping with those functions of memory, movement, and that last little word down there I can't see. Okay, the cerebellum. You mentioned the cerebellum. What are some things that happen within the cerebellum in particular?
Balance. I having a hard time reading that.
Coordination and muscle control. Three things that are related: your balance, your coordination, and muscle control.
Then the amygdala's got to be in the temporal lobe then.
Yes.
Because that's behavior, intelligence, and yada, yada, yada.
And so all of these things work together. So seeing that point you made about the brain is always working. Some parts of your brain are always working, and having the brain in balance, resting the brain. We've done some visioning exercises, meditation, breathing. What are some of the other things that you mentioned that help rest the brain, stimulate the brain?
So I think we mentioned healthy eating, right? Fresh air workouts, traveling, taking notes, dancing. These were some of the things.
Yeah, now
and
the
learning,
dancing you mentioned a couple of times, and I think the dancing, we need to go out dancing more. Maybe we can have a Powered by Age. Powered by Age dance, so that we rest and shake up our brains.
Right.
The concentration, when people multitask, there's an illustration that someone made. You know how a wedding cake that has 3 layers is structured, and usually the smallest one is on top. But when people must multitask, 40% gets lopped off of what they remember. And so it would be just like taking from this brain, suppressing what's happening in one part of the section, because things just get so much crammed or stuck in one area that the area of the brain that remembers things, remembers and holds and processes it, gets underused. So one writer was suggesting that older people will soon not have that image. You know, the joke that they make about older people having a second childhood and that they don't remember things, but they found because we were taught we had to do rote memory, remember timetables, we had to remember how to shape letters, that actually our memories will be longer than the people that are in the generations now that are being told you don't have to do cursive writing, you don't have to memorize timetables, and to just multitask, to be doing several things at the same time, where the cerebellum, the parietal, these other parts of your brain aren't able to just really stew or meditate on those things and get used to transferring stuff from one area to the other, that we are just literally multitasking overstrains one area of the brain without exercising the other areas. Okay, so we're going to, does anyone have any other questions about these areas and how beautifully they're illustrated? I like the golden frontal, the blue parietal, the green occipital, the blue cerebellum, and the magenta. I love magenta temporal. Okay, so now we are grateful for this wonderful organ in our body, which leads us transitioning over to talking about gratitude.
Do you want to do that now, Charlotte? Do you want to do gratitude, or should we be doing the partner questions?
Well, we can we have about 10 minutes. Let's do 5 minutes of the partner exercise so that people can see what it's about. Maybe,
Right.
Since both of us have worked on it, maybe you can partner with Neil and I can partner with Leslie.
Sure.
And let's see if we can make the small rooms
the breakout.
work.
Yeah.
Leslie, have you ever divided people into the breakout rooms?
Yes. Let me see how this works here. If you go down to the bottom, if you hit you've got your mute, your stop video. If you go up to the right-hand side, you should see more.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on that, then you'll see a pop-up, and breakout rooms is part of that list.
Right. Okay.
So then if you click on that, and it'll prompt you to assign people to the different rooms. I'm not sure if you can assign yourself, though.
Oh.
It might be difficult with only 4 people.
I don't see that on my list. The participants invite, chat, record this computer, and reactions.
I think it's because
I think you have to be set up as a Zoom host. I am a Zoom host, right? Mm-hmm. So Charlotte's made me a co-host.
Now, who will I assign? I've got room 1 and room 2, but how do you assign people to it?
You've got your list of participants. If you click on those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think you have to give us the task before you split us up. Otherwise, you won't be able to talk to us, though.
Oh, okay. Well, Ramona, will you give the task?
Okay. Yeah, sure. So,
I hate to interrupt.
No problem.
But it's 5 minutes to, and then I have to leave it no later than 2. Because I've got a meeting at 2:30 that I've got to travel to. So,
so Charlotte, would you like me to go through gratitude, and maybe we do the partner questions another time?
Yes, we can do that.
After, right?
Yeah, because I don't think it'll work because Charlotte's the host. She can't be part of the room either. So there's only 3 of us, right?
Right. If we had more people, maybe it would work. Right. So I'm going to say hello again, everyone. Well, we're almost officially in the holiday season, somewhere between the turkey and the shopping. Most of us take time to express gratitude, and most of us consider it a really nice tradition. But did you know that the intentional practice of gratitude actually changes the chemistry of your brain? Recent studies now prove that incorporating gratitude into your daily routine with intention has a significant impact on healthy cognitive functions as well as physical and psychological health. That's because when we practice gratitude, it actually increases activity in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a pretty important part of the brain. It's about the size of a pea, and it sits right in the middle of the brain. But it maintains our body's balancing system. It manages things like body temperature, hunger, thirst, metabolic activity, sleeping, sex drive. If you think about when any of those things are out of kilter, we feel stressed. So it has a lot to do with our stress management system. Intentional gratitude also triggers the release of dopamine. Remember, dopamine is that reward and pleasure chemical that says, oh, that feels really good. Do that again. And when the brain is in dopamine, it really facilitates activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is our thinking brain. Expressing gratitude is a really nice thing to do for others, but it also impacts our own level of happiness. In one study, subjects were asked to identify someone they really appreciated, and then they were encouraged to express it either in person or over the phone. What they found is that by simply identifying and thinking about that person and what they appreciated about that person, that increased their own level of happiness by 2 to 4%, which is nice, right? But those who personally express their gratitude either in person or over the phone, they showed happiness gains by 4 to 19%. So, what does that mean to us? On those days that are particularly tough, you're stressed or you're feeling blue or just sad, a sincere expression of gratitude will not only make someone else happy, but it's going to make you happier too. Research shows that incorporating gratitude journaling into your day is one of the most effective ways to stay in the virtuous cycle and keep those good chemicals flowing in the brain. So, apart from journaling, what else can we do for gratitude practices? You can express it on social media, since most of us here are writers. Here's an experiment you can try for 7 days. Write down or post what you're grateful for and see how that changes your life. You could also write a letter to someone or tell a friend what you appreciate about them. Another thing you can do is to sit in a quiet place and think about when something went well. Bring to mind how that felt. If you practice that for a week, that feeling of gratitude and contentment, that helps strengthen that feeling of gratitude and contentment, and that's going to help you foster an abundant mindset in the long run. The more you practice gratitude, you get better and better at it. Your brain starts looking for more and more things that make you happy. And then it gets easier to feel gratitude and to feel happy. So choose one way today to express gratitude and tell us about it the next time we meet. I thank you all for being so patient and listening to me. And just for fun, I have a question for you. Which 5-letter word in the dictionary can be pronounced the same, even if it has 4 of its letters removed? I'm repeating that. Which 5-letter word in the dictionary can be pronounced the same, even if it has 4 of its letters removed?
I think I know the answer to that one. Are we supposed to tell you now or wait till next week?
Yes, please tell us now, because then Neil is going to leave. So
okay, is it Q?
Yes, you're right. It's Q. Charlotte, do I have time for another question?
Oh, no, what I want to do is anchor what you said with a prompt for what people are to do for next week. Next week.
Oh, yes.
Right. We have a lot of writers and we have poets. So we want you to write either a poem, a short story, or even a joke expressing gratitude. You think about one person, or it could be one thing, but just a poem, short story, joke, or a song that deals with gratitude, expressing gratitude. And I'm sure everyone is going to feel good, because that exercise that Ramona gave us, write something in your journal every day, find one thing, your brain is going to be so happy. So I am excited to hear what you bring and write to share next week on Powered by Age.
Bye-bye. Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you so much,
Namaste.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm grateful for you.
Thank you, everyone.